to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association and powered by WS Radio. This is your host, Kevin Svec, and in the studio this morning, we've got Sam Wheeler. How you doing this morning, Sam?
Hey, pretty good. How's it going, Kevin?
Not too bad, Sam. So before we dive into our topic of discussion today, we have a couple announcements to get through. First one is keep an eye out for a welcome email where we welcome all the new board members of the American Marketing Association San Diego chapter, myself included. That should be out in the next few days, so just keep an eye out for that. And the next one, we've got an event coming up on August 8th. It is a content marketing cabana chat called How to Make Your Content Go Further with Marketing Automation. The event features Frank Cowell of Digitopia Incorporated, and tickets are $20. Be sure you pick them up in the next few days. And it should be a great topic. And
Frank is a great presenter, and his last few content sigs have all been packed.
Awesome.
So I would suggest definitely getting your tickets earlier.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a really interesting event. I'm really looking forward to it. So diving right back into our topic of discussion, to give a little refresh, this is a part 2 from our last segment, if you remember back, titled How Service Providers Can Create a Content Marketing Strategy from Scratch. And to recap, in our last episode, we talked about laying the framework of a content marketing strategy, which involves defining your goals, finding buyer personas, understanding where the content falls in the buyer's journey, identifying pain points, and just getting everything off the ground, getting the framework, getting the foundation laid. And then we also talked about getting the creative juices flowing, which involves doing things like tapping into trending topics, doing basic keyword research, defining your content voice, and mapping out a content calendar is where we wrapped up for the last episode. And starting with this episode, this part 2, I want to dive into the distribution of your content. This is when you've created your content and you're looking for outlets and you're just looking to get in front of your audience and, get your content and brand message in front of more eyes. And so I want to start off by choosing the best content formats. So if we're starting off at the beginning of the buyer's journey, when in the awareness stage, the discovery stage, just where people are first learning about what their problems are, and they're starting to conduct research on how to solve them. So a lot of this top of the funnel content, you're going to see a lot of blog posts, long form, text heavy content. You can see a lot of explainer videos, podcasts. There's a lot, you can do visual elements like infographics, just short, slide shares, anything like that. And a lot of these blog posts, they're going to be, to refresh on the keyword research we talked of, a lot of them are going to be very informational posts, like, how to start an SEO strategy, how to get your pay-per-click strategy started, examples of good pay-per-click strategies, tips for getting your content strategy off the ground. A lot of those you're going to see blog posts, eBooks, long form, like I said, and
Kevin, let me interrupt you for a second. Kind of ask you a question here, which I'm guessing some people might be wondering.
Yeah.
Why choose an ebook or a slide share over a blog post? What is the benefit of those different the variants in content types?
Well, a lot of it has to do with how in-depth you want to go and kind of how quickly you want to get your content out there. Personally, I'd say that blog posts are really the bread and butter of a content strategy, especially in terms of SEO. And if a brand wanted to do an ebook, ebooks are obviously way longer than your average blog post. So if a company wants to do an ebook, they're going to dive super, super, super in-depth into the topic. And a lot of it, the purpose of an ebook is really just to showcase that you are an undisputed expert in your field and you really know what you're talking about and you just want to get your knowledge out there as much as possible. And a slide share is kind of the opposite of that. If I want to do a slide share, I want it to be, slide shares are quick snackable contents, stuff that can be absorbed really quickly. So for example, if I wanted to do a slide share over a blog post, I would take the outline of my blog post or any sort of content that I'm creating and sum it up, just hit the heavy points and really just sum it up in a slide share, get, all the main points out there as quick as possible.
Now, all right, cool. So you brought up a couple good points there. I really like this idea of creating this like deep, in-depth piece, right? So if one thing that everybody, and we talked a lot about this last week or last show, but you need to make sure your content has a purpose, right? So for an ebook, you can write an ebook for, if you want to gate it, right, and collect email addresses and say, hey, you want this ebook, like give me your email and we'll give it to you, right? Or a way to you can use these other long form pieces as lead gen, kind of stuff that you can, use in paid media as well, like, push it on Facebook, or it's like an asset that you can promote, right? Whereas it's really hard to promote just a regular blog post on like paid search or paid social, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of blog posts, depending on the topic, most of the goals for a blog post is to get organic traffic and really just showcase your expertise. Whereas if you go way more in depth with the ebook, Sam, like you said, a lot of the common goals are to use it as a lead magnet, get email addresses, get inquiries, just generate interest for your brand.
Totally. And then what do you suggest? SlideShare is like what? Does LinkedIn own SlideShare or something like that?
Yeah, I believe so.
You suggest like sending users to SlideShare to like check out your snackable content?
Yeah, exactly. Another big trend going on right now is a lot of companies are creating videos, which are essentially like blog posts, but in video format. Like, for example, if they wrote a blog post that got a ton of traffic on 3 tips for starting an SEO strategy from scratch. A lot of companies now are diving into video. They're converting that into it where they get a host, and then the host just gives the main points on, how to start an SEO strategy from scratch. And it's important to note that video is really just taking over the internet right now. It has been for a few years. Zuckerberg himself even said, I think back in 2015 or 2016, that he believes most online content is going to be video in the near future. And I mean, if you take one look at your Facebook timeline, most of the content's going to be video. And, brands are picking up on this. This is just becoming kind of the status quo for content creation in marketing or business or, whatever the goals are.
Yeah, I like the use of video. It's really hard to incorporate video well, right? I mean, video, you can shoot a video and it could just look terrible, right? So, we actually have a video marketing SIG that Mike Toe runs here at the AMA, and he does a great job of, I think his last one was DIY techniques for, small marketing teams. But what I want to get at here is you can still shoot good video without hiring somebody for $5,000 a day, right? And you don't have to, let's say you have this long ebook and you have this whole SEO strategy. You don't need to break down the entire blog post or the entire piece in the video, right? You can have sections of it where it's like, hey, maybe the video is 2 minutes long and it just highlights the main points, and then the meat of the topics in the actual blog post. Right. And, you can use video to break up, as in the old days, but, a few years ago when, blogs were being kind of like the new thing and it was starting to garner traffic and all this stuff, you would break your text up with pictures to make it more readable. Right. And now you can break the text up with like videos or, snapshots or other types of media outside of just a straight photo, which is really unique and I think really easy. But, the other thing that's really important too, and going back to SlideShare, is you want to make sure you're putting all of your stuff on your site, right? So, I like the idea of having a SlideShare to like showcase all of the stuff that you've created, but you want to make sure that you are also putting that stuff on your website, right? So Google is able to like crawl and show that it's like your original piece that you created. And On top of that, especially for video, you want to make sure you're transcribing the videos, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
If you've got like an hour long video, that's like 5,000, probably an hour long video, maybe 7,000 or 8,000 words, I would say, maybe more. If you can transcribe that and get that edited into like a digestible piece, like you could potentially just make a blog post by talking and then having somebody transcribe it for $50 or whatever. So that's a really cool way to make content without having to invest in the $2,000-$3,000 long form posts. It's just talk.
Yeah, true. And I thought it was interesting what you said about the transcript. That's also a gold mine for SEO and just getting your keywords out there.
I mean, I would suggest to those out there that Google knows the difference between good content and bad content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just transcribe it and just rip the transcription from YouTube or something,
right.
And just post it on there. Google's going to see it, and it's going to look almost like spammy content. So when you're transcribing it, a best practice, in my opinion, is to edit it to make it look more like a blog post, right? Where you're taking out the ums and any type of like audio portion of speech that's not in writing, and making it more of an article with what you were talking about, right? So it doesn't need to be verbatim. I don't think it can just be kind of like an article version of your speech, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So sorry to cut you short, Sam. We're gonna wrap up this first segment here and hang tight for a couple minutes, and we'll be back with segment 2.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What? Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back, everyone. This is your host, Kevin Svec, and in the studio, we've got Sam Wheeler, and we want to pick up with our segment 2 of this episode of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association and powered by WS Radio. And diving right back into the topic here, we were talking about distribution of content. We had wrapped up with video and talking about transcripts. And Sam, I just want to add one more thing to, we were talking about transcripts and SEO, and there's one thing I wanted to add before we went to break, so I'll add it now here. We did a recent podcast with Neil Patel on the E2M podcast at my own company, and he talked about how the AI functions of search engines are getting a lot better at picking up keywords that are verbalized in videos. So when you create your transcript for the video, either before the video starts, try to factor in some of the spoken keywords, like a lot of the long tail keywords, and factor it into the video, because search engines are getting better at picking that up, and that can help your ranking.
Interesting.
Yeah. So another big thing I want to talk about, in addition to videos, I want to talk about podcasts for top of the funnel content. Podcasts are, like we were saying earlier, Sam, it's really similar to a blog post. It's just spoken instead of written. It's a great way to get your brand out there, and the demand for audio is growing steadily, but it's still nothing significant compared to text-heavy content online. So I know there's definitely the bandwagon for podcasts, but I would totally say jump on it and start doing shows on your most pertinent topics and bringing in some industry leaders that can help give you some traction.
I think it's important too to have a clear understanding of why you're doing the podcasts, right? I mean, if you want to give somebody step-by-step instructions on how to do a task, or especially if it's, if you're a business and it's like a B2B podcast or something like that, it might make more sense to create a piece of content around that people can reference to, so they don't have to keep scrolling or keep, moving the actual audio cursor back and forth to learn what's going on.
Right.
So, for the most part, I would say probably keep the podcast at a pretty high level, and, in the show write-ups have more in-depth, instructions or whatever the purpose of the piece is, right? If it's just chat, that's great. But if you're going to have any type of, you need
something content, visual to illustrate the points a little better. So, in terms of podcasts, I think going back to what we talked about towards the end of last week's segment, where we talked about evergreen content versus timely content. Depending on your goals, I'd recommend try and keep your podcast maybe a little more timely. Talk about trending news. That could do a lot to, just kind of give your expert take on trending news in your industry, or bring in a guest just to talk about the latest news is a great strategy that a lot of businesses are utilizing for their podcasts. And the next one, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
I just said great.
Oh, okay, cool. So the next part of distribution, I want to talk about visuals. And this kind of goes back a little bit to slide shares and videos. And I want to talk about the commitment to investing in high-quality photography, high-quality graphics. That's an importance that cannot be understated. Visual marketing is just, it's everywhere these days. Sam, like you were saying, companies are using it to break up their blog posts, break up their videos. It's just the importance of investing in the quality visual elements just cannot be understated. And Google's even picking up on a lot of the visuals and content, and how pertinent it is to the content and just the overall quality. So anyway, that's the last I want to touch on visual content and distribution. The next step I want to talk about is identifying the best platforms for distribution. And for starters, your own website, obviously. And when you're creating content for your website, I have been a huge endorser of the topic clustering approach. And to give a little bit more information about what topic clustering is, essentially you take your industry, your niche, or whatever it is you do, and you come up with pillar content. And this is just the big overarching content subjects that you're going to cover, and really just what you do as a business. Like, for example, E2M Solutions, the company I work for, we specialize in search engine optimization, content marketing, web design, and copywriting. So those 4 topics, that's our pillar content. And, those terms have really large search volumes, in the millions. And the goal is to get, with topic clusters, really high overarching topics with really big search volumes. And the goal is you take those pillar content and you expand upon it with more granular content. Like, for example, if SEO is our pillar content, a piece of granular related content would be, what are the best strategies for SEO if you are a law firm or a car dealership or a hair salon, X, Y, and Z. Sam, do you have anything more to add to topic clustering? Just kind of as an overarching definition.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good overview, I think.
Okay, cool. And one more thing about topic clustering here. Internal linking. This is all on your own website. Internal linking is really just how Google learns what your site is all about. And so I'd say, just for general practice when you're topic clustering, unless it's super relevant, try to keep your internal linking all within the same pillar topic. All right, so that's a lot of what I'm going to say on topic clustering. And the next I want to talk about social platforms. And this is all about just finding out where your customers hang out. And as a general rule of thumb, if you look at the big networks out there, you got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you're in a B2C industry, I'd say your best bets are getting your content out on Facebook and Instagram. Whereas if you're B2B, you should really be targeting LinkedIn and Twitter. And an interesting thing about LinkedIn and Twitter, LinkedIn is really used for business purposes as well as personal branding, whereas Twitter, I'm noticing, is a lot more personal branding. And that is just like, if you're a CEO of a company, you can just really promote yourself on Twitter and kind of the wisdom you bring to the business. And ideally, that funnels traffic back to your business. And I think this is a lot of because Twitter, there's a character limit. It's a lot of, like we were talking about earlier, it's the domain for snackable content, just like really short little snippets. And YouTube is for everyone, B2B, B2C, you name it. And just a little side note here, YouTube is actually the second biggest search engine in the world. And so when you promote content, you really need to learn the basics of YouTube SEO. And that's about like optimizing your titles, your descriptions, your tags, and then what we were talking about earlier about your transcripts and verbalizing keywords. And Sam, do you have anything else to add to YouTube SEO or optimizing your videos?
I would say it's just important to realize that unless you are extremely strong in this arena, is to use it as a supplementary tactic. I wouldn't put all of your budget into YouTube search, right? Or creating videos for YouTube only. I'd use it as kind of supplemental to your other articles and post up on YouTube, kind of like as a secondary way to leverage your content. But unless you're very confident it's going to yield, significant ROI for you, I would test it out first before diving all in.
Okay, interesting. And Sam, as an SEO agency, do you see a lot of YouTube clients coming to you saying, "Look, we really need YouTube SEO. What can you guys do for me?"
We do, for the most part. It really depends on what their goals are, right? If somebody says, "Look, we need views," because then people go from YouTube to our website and then they buy stuff on our website, right? And then we usually say, well, why do we have to have that one step through YouTube? Why can't we also fold in just a standard organic search strategy in addition to a YouTube strategy, right? And then some people come to us and say, look, I've got AdSense and, I make money on views, right? That's how my primary source of income is. So we need to get these videos out and we need people to watch them. And then we can, build a strategy around that as well. So it kind of just depends on the goal and the primary way that the partner of ours makes money, right? Using YouTube.
Gotcha. It's interesting. We've done a little bit with YouTube SEO, but it's interesting to hear from your perspective. And so moving on, we went over kind of the basic native content channels. We talked about the website and your social channels and whatnot. And now I want to get into the external sources for content distribution. And I know we touched on it briefly towards the end of our last show on guest posting, which has long been just the tried and true bread and butter of content marketing and just getting your brand out there on external content channels. And Sam, I know you did quite a bit of the digital PR and getting content, getting content published on other websites. I kind of want to get your opinion on ways to go about conducting the best research for guest posting opportunities. So I've spent most of my career working on the production end, where I work with an outreach coordinator, and they get in contact with website editors, and then we pitch an idea, and then we write the post to them. What would you say is the best practices for conducting research for guest posting and, finding topical relevance?
That's a good question. So usually you need to do it in kind of a step-by-step approach where you find...
Oops, Sam, sorry, I got to cut you off. We're going to pick this up in the next segment. You're listening to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the American Marketing Association and powered by WS Radio. And we'll see you for Section 3.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Kenja Dixon was crowned the #1 sales executive through hard work, deep thinking, and the revelation of universal talk laws. He now wants to share these lessons with you. Universal talk laws are what you need to know and use in business and at home to have successful and effective conversations. Kenja Dixon shares his wisdom, action plans, and wealth. Each book comes with a chance to win $10,000. Find Universal Talk Laws at KenjaDixon.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to section 3 of our topic of discussion today. We are talking content strategy and how you can start yours from scratch. This is your host, Kevin Svec, and in the studio we've got Sam Wheeler. And Sam, I apologize I had to cut you off towards the end of last segment. We were talking about conducting research on the best websites for guest posting and finding relevance. And sorry, if I just want to pick up where we left off here. What are kind of the best strategies for conducting research to find topical relevance for guest posting?
Yeah, so first off, I want to back up a little bit. Is you need to understand that, again, I feel like I've been saying this a lot, but the purpose for your guest posts, right? Your guest post is to show the site's users that you have great information and you're a thought leader in the space, and it's more of just like a branding play. Then your search is a little bit different than if you're trying to, do guest posting for like SEO or something like that. Whereas, if a website that has a lot of followers but doesn't have great, organic rankings or something could be a great partner for you to do some sort of like guest posting project where you're, posting the site and, kind of partnering with them, right? But if you're looking strictly for SEO purposes, you want to look for sites that have a strong organic presence, right? So there's kind of two separate veins there, right? I mean, you have like traditional PR campaigns where you pay for somebody to do something, and they, if you think about a good example is, like a cookware company paying a blogger to make like some sort of, dish or meal or something, right? Using one of their dishes. But if we're talking strictly SEO and we're talking about, making this content so it helps your website, the most important thing is that Google knows the difference between a good link and a bad link, right? Websites that all they do is guest post and they have hey, write for us, give us $50 and you can post anything you want on the site. Those websites are brutal. And you don't want to waste your time with that because, you want to look at the website's kind of look at their ranking profile to see, do they have rankings in your space? If you're a cookware company and you're getting a blog post on a site that doesn't have a single ranking for cookware terms, that post is not going to help you at all, right? It's going to be a new page on this website that has no relevance in the cookware space, and it's going to be a link pointing back to you, and it's just not going to be strong, right? So, I mean, if you can do that for $100, then maybe, right? If you have somebody on your team that can write really quickly or whatever, but most of these guest posts, they take a bunch of hours, and you have to have like original research and all that stuff, right? And so you want to find, you can use like SEMrush or Ahrefs to, or, another keyword tracking tool to kind of find websites that have rankings in your space that aren't competitors, right? And then the other very important piece to realize is, the goal here, while it is to help your website, people are internet savvy these days, right? And they know a crappy guest post when they see one. So, you shouldn't be reaching out to like, hey, let me do one post on you on your website, and then I'm never going to talk to you again. Right? It should be more of a conversation around, hey, let's be partners. I can, give you a bunch of pieces of content, and we can cross promote on social media and Facebook, and kind of build a relationship with these people. Or these sites, rather than just, giving them a post and then never talking to them ever again, because, Google wants to see strong content, right? So if you can literally build a really awesome piece that adds value to their users, is in their industry, makes sense, it's going to work, and it's going to add value in the long run too, as that page or that post kind of grows in value in Google's mind over time. So, that's kind of the key. I would say, kind of to sum it all up, would be to focus on the site's ranking profile, the article that you're creating, making sure it's adding a lot of value, and just reaching out to them and being open about why you're doing it, right? Saying, hey, this is going to help us, but it's going to also help you, and it's a mutual relationship here.
Right. That's a really interesting point to bring up. I know we briefly touched on our last show about outreaching etiquette. You really just got to approach it as, how can we help each other grow rather than what can you do for me?
Especially if you're not giving them any money, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know I mentioned this in the last show. My favorite line that I get from people outreaching to me is, "Oh, I stumbled across your website and I thought that I could create a good piece of content for you." That's just to me, that's just the first thing that says, "Oh, I haven't looked at your website. I don't really care. I just want some SEO value."
Yeah, totally. And then also going back to the whole, researching things, is once you find a website, don't just email them right away. Look through some of their stuff, right? And make sure you're pitching an article that they don't have.
Yeah.
And, saying, hey, look, I know that you are a website that talks about like projectors, right? I noticed you didn't have a piece on the history of projectors. I'd love to put a piece together with original research and blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. That goes way further than just being like, hey, like you said, I stumbled across your site, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the other important thing too, when thinking about research too, is look for, this is a really good tactic that, my team uses a lot. Look for freelance writers, right? That they make money by writing for websites, not necessarily for brands, but they're just a journalist or a freelancer that puts articles together for pay. Mm-hmm. And what you can do is you can look for their author profile, right? And most freelance writers have author profile that has a link back to their freelancer website, and see where those people have gotten their articles placed, and reach out to all of those websites, right? Even if those websites don't have a, hey, write for us kind of thing, they're taking freelancers because this person is a freelancer, right? So you can just go and, rip the backlink profile or rip a list of all the places where this freelancer has been placed, and then just hit up all those sites. Really easy way to, find opportunities, and knowing that they accept writers that aren't on staff.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that. So I'm wondering, are there any if you're looking out for freelancers on different websites, is there any easy tactics to start? Is there a way to find freelancers quickly? Is there a tool or anything?
I would use you can use Ahrefs like Content Explorer if you have it, but I would say normally use a Google Advanced Search Operator and do quote author bio, and then in URL, quote author bio plus quote freelance writer, right? And then it will pull up pages that have the word author bio plus the words freelance writer, something like that. So, Google's advanced search operators are, if you know how to use them, you can get really, really specific stuff from the search engine. It's just, understanding what the commands are and how to use them.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Maybe we could put maybe we'll put a link to an article about the advanced search operators in the show notes so people can leverage it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. Now I want to switch gears a little bit to, we talked about creation, ideation, and distribution. Now I want to talk about measuring success of a content strategy. And I want to start doing your on-site content and measuring the success of that with a content audit. And so a content audit, in a nutshell, is essentially just the process of you taking inventory of all your content assets and measuring how well they're doing. And Sam, do you have anything more you want to add to the definition of a content audit?
What do you mean? Can you explain a little bit more how well they're doing? What do I mean?
So just how well the content is performing, how much traffic it's bringing in, how many people it's converting, how a piece of content is, filling its role and contributing to a smooth buyer's journey throughout your website.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up too. I mean, you need to make sure each piece of content has a different purpose, and you need to make sure that they're doing its job, right? So, not just looking at the first visitor, looking at how those visitors convert, like you said, but also, understanding that some of these articles are at top of the funnel, right? Where they need to be, you're pixeling these people so you can retarget them on Facebook or something like that, right?
Right,
so,
exactly.
Just because an article isn't converting doesn't mean it's a bad piece.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be that it's not the buyer's not in the right stage to make a purchase after landing on it, but that's what the pixels are for, to retarget these people in the future.
Right, exactly. So I always like to say when I talk about content audits that a content audit should answer 4 key questions. The first question is, should this piece of content be left alone? Like, is this content performing perfectly well? It doesn't need to be, nothing needs to change. It's doing its job perfectly. And the second question, should this content be updated? And that is updated with, are there new and relevant stats, facts, or examples I could use? And the third question is, should this content be built upon? Like, can this content be expanded upon in a part 2 or a part 3, or can this content be beefed up? And the third question is, can this piece of content be either removed or consolidated into another piece of content? So those are the 4 major questions, which I'll post in the write-up. Those are the 4 major questions that a content audit should answer. And that is going to wrap up our segment 3 of this show. And we'll be back. We'll dive right back into content audits. You're listening to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association and powered by WS Radio.
Take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goley, one thing that you have helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get to the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians, because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back, everyone, to our final segment of this episode of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association and powered by WS Radio. In the studio, I have Sam Wheeler, and we were talking about doing a content audit. And I just touched on the 4 major questions that should be answered throughout a content audit. Sam, I was wondering if you had anything more to add to that.
No, that sounds good. One thing that I will say is we've got our vice president of SEO just did like a really awesome webinar on how to do a content audit from scratch, which is pretty sweet. It's like a step-by-step video content piece.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, it's a pretty good resource, and it basically just gives away our strategies. So maybe we'll include a link to that or something, but really, it could be a really cool supplemental piece for people to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we could do a super long show on doing a content marketing or a content audit from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important things of it, obviously, is just understanding what pieces you have, right? And a website that's been around for 15 years that has gone through a bunch of different ownerships and, marketing teams, like especially from an enterprise level, there could be hundreds of thousands of pieces of content, right? And when you're doing the content audit, it's important, like all 4 of those actions that you outlined, I think are very smart. But one thing that we find that people often overlook is they will only look at actual articles on their site, where you need to understand, like, even if it's a URL that has nothing on it, that's like a live page, that still should be part of the content audit to bucket into the kill or 301 action, if that makes sense, right? So if it's like an old piece we've had one client that they did a bunch of like in-person marketing events where they were they were doing promotions at like festivals or whatever. And every time they had one of those across the country, they had basically a picture of the event. And it was like, check us out at Coachella. We'll be in booth 104 or whatever, right? And it's just like a picture. And that was the whole post because it was part of their blog content, right? Now, that's an okay piece if you're shouting it out to your followers or you're putting in an email or whatever. But from a content audit perspective, that is a piece of content that probably needs to be updated or changed because it's old stuff. There's no copy on it, just a photo. So biggest piece of advice is you understand all of the pieces of content you have rather than just the blog pieces.
Right. Yep, and I think just to backtrack a tiny bit, I think one of the most, going off what you said about understanding just how much content you have, I think the most important part of the process is just simply gauging your ability to do a thorough content audit. Like if you have tons and tons of content on your website, you can't do a good content audit in an afternoon or a couple hours. And I think the worst thing you can do is just to look at the prospect of doing a content audit and think, oh, we have so much content, this is going to take a huge effort, and then just simply put it off because you don't have the time. Because, every marketing department, every business is super busy all the time. And I think when that happens, especially when you have a lot of content, it's really easy to put a content audit on the back burner. So I think, like I was saying, the most important part is simply gauging your ability to do a content audit. And, if your entire team is just totally swamped, maybe you need to look into outsourcing this task or, hiring some outsourced help or, reallocating your manpower. So that's really the step one, in my opinion. And so another thing, diving into the actual content audit, I know this is kind of the sentiment that's been the common thread throughout this whole thing. It's all about identifying your goals of the audit. And some of the most common goals we see in a content marketing audit is, one, to gain a deeper understanding of the topics that people are receptive to. Like, what are the topics that are gaining the most traction? Like, what are you getting the most engagement for? And another one is identifying your best performing pieces and your worst performing pieces. You know, which ones are the best use of your time and which ones aren't really giving you a good rate of investment. And I think one of the most important goals going off that is to really see where the gaps in your sales funnel are. Like, do you have a piece of content that's really geared towards the consideration stage or heavy research? And does it have like a really high bounce rate? Are you losing people? Is it failing to convert? And the other one is simply just finding approaches for how you can improve your performance, whether it be on organic search in terms of conversions and X, Y, and Z. And another goal, I'd say, is to outline your most valuable keywords, like which keywords and search terms in your content is bringing in the most traffic, which is ultimately translating to your conversion rates and then ultimately into revenue. And Sam, do you have any more major goals of a content audit you'd like to talk about?
No. I think, obviously most people are really focused on revenue, right, like you said. But, just understanding that each piece of your website should have a certain goal, right, and understanding what that goal is. So, if you can bucket your content pieces into the various types, right, and have that sorted, you can get a better understanding of how well they're doing based on, what conversions you put, what the conversion of the page is or how you mark it up or whatever.
Gotcha. Sounds good. So we only have a couple minutes left here, so I want to first talk about how to compile all your content. And personally, I like to use Screaming Frog. It's super easy. You just enter in your website URL and it pulls in all your content, and then you can kind of sort it based on whatever your goals are. So this is my endorsement for Screaming Frog in the content audits. Anyway,
love Screaming Frog. Screaming Frog will only get stuff that's internally linked on your site, though. So you can't use only Screaming Frog because that's how the crawler works. Is it goes to your website and finds a link and then follows that link and then finds another link and follows that link. So you're not going to get any type of orphaned pages by using Screaming Frog. So you want to make sure that when you're looking for content, you're using a multitude of ways or a multitude of tools, right? So, I would also do a site search to see which content is indexed.
Right.
And Screaming Frog, and probably look at your backlink profile to see if any other pages have links. And then, if you have a decent back end, just ripping all of the, the pages that you have as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you got to look into like your search console, integrate your Google Analytics. I was just talking about, how to gather your content assets. And then, once you dive into the specifics, you need to use a multitude of tools just to, kind of identify the stats of each piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the next part I really want to touch on in this last minute here is assigning grades to each piece of your content. And this is going to go back to exactly what your goals are. I like to start, give it an A through F rating. And for example, like what defines an A and what defines an F? Like to give you an example, maybe a piece of content that is an A is a post that averages 200 or more views, has 5+ minutes average time on page. Maybe the bounce rate is less than 40%, and maybe the conversion rate is 10% or above every month. Maybe those are kind of the criteria to earn an A rating. Whereas, for example, maybe the F rating is the post gets less than 250 views, less than 30 seconds average time on page, super high bounce rate. Stuff like that. So really what you have to do is you have to identify your parameters on what defines a good piece of content to you and what defines a bad piece of content. And then from there is how you can decide to take your actions. And so that should about end our show today. I know we couldn't get too deep into a content audit. We should probably do a full show on doing a content audit one of these days. But so that should wrap up this segment of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association and powered by WS Radio. We'll see you next time.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McCullough brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcCullough.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McCulloughe. ChristopherMcCullough.com.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book Virtual Assistant, the series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released, and to encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. Scale will help you work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, visit us online at scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.